Grok 4. This is the latest artificial intelligence system. We are now at the crossroads where promise and peril are going to collide.
Elon Musk's XAI.
Grok AI.
Grok AI.
Grok AI.
Elon Musk's AI chatbot.
Someone asked Grok AI a wild question. Grok versus Jesus, who would win? Instead of jokes or heat, the answer surprised everyone.
Grok 4 is smarter than almost all graduate students in all disciplines simultaneously. It's actually just important to appreciate that's really something.
You know, there's great wisdom in the teachings of Jesus, and I agree with those teachings.
Calm, thoughtful, and unexpected, it flipped the debate and sparked big reactions online. Here's why that response stood out, and why people are still talking about it everywhere.
Elon Musk's XAI has released its newest AI model, Grok 4, I believe as of 4 a.m. UK time, so about 3 hours, been live for 3 hours. What can we expect when it comes to this new iteration?
The question that stopped the internet. It started like any other post on X. Someone typed out a question. They hit send. The question seemed absurd at first. Grok versus Jesus, who would win? Within minutes, the post began spreading. Within hours, it had millions of views. People could not stop talking about it. On the surface, it looked like classic internet behavior. People ask provocative questions all the time. These questions stir up controversy. They generate memes. Then they disappear into the digital void. People throw around hypothetical matchups constantly. Superman versus Godzilla. Einstein versus Hawking, the Beatles versus the Stones. Most of these questions are just for fun, but this question was different. It touched something deeper. It was not just about two entities in some imaginary arena. It was about the collision of two forces. These forces have shaped human consciousness in fundamentally different ways. On one side stood Jesus. He is the most influential figure in human history. His teachings have guided billions of lives. This influence spans 2,000 years. On the other side stood Grok. Grok represents the cutting edge of artificial intelligence. It represents humanity's latest leap into uncharted territory. The timing mattered too. February 2026 sits at a unique moment in history. AI capabilities have surged forward. Things that seemed impossible just years earlier are now reality. Traditional religious participation has declined in Western nations. The decline has reached historic lows. Yet spiritual curiosity explodes online. The contradiction is striking. Major tech companies now hold massive wealth. Their combined market value rivals the accumulated wealth of ancient institutions. The balance of power has shifted. Grok itself was developed by XAI. The company was founded by Elon Musk. Grok operates with unprecedented freedom. It pursues truth even when uncomfortable. This sets it apart from other AI systems. Most people expected Grok to dodge the question, maybe crack a joke, perhaps offer a safe non-answer about respecting all beliefs. Tech companies had spent years training their AI assistants. They wanted them to avoid controversy. They wanted them to deflect sensitive topics. They wanted them to stay within carefully defined boundaries. What Grok actually delivered changed everything. Who is Jesus? Before understanding why Grok's response shocked people, we need context. We need to understand exactly who Jesus is. This is about historical and cultural perspective. This is not about personal belief. This is about documented reality and measurable impact. The historical evidence for Jesus of Nazareth is strong. It is stronger than for virtually any figure from antiquity. We have over 24,000 ancient manuscript copies. These texts describe his life and teachings. The earliest fragments date to around 125 AD. That is within a century of the events they describe. Scholars compare these thousands of manuscripts. They find 99.5% consistency in the text. The variations are minor. They involve spelling differences and word order. This level of documentation is unparalleled. Most ancient figures we accept as historical fact have far less evidence. We have fewer than 10 good copies of Julius Caesar's Gallic Wars. The earliest complete manuscript of Homer's works dates to over 1,000 years after composition. Yet nobody questions whether Caesar or Homer existed. Beyond the manuscript tradition, we have corroboration. Non-Christian sources mention Jesus. The Roman historian Tacitus wrote around 116 AD. He described how Nero blamed Christians for the fire of Rome. He mentioned that their founder, Christus, had been executed under Pontius Pilate. This happened during the reign of Tiberius. The Jewish historian Josephus wrote around 93 AD. He made multiple references to Jesus and his brother James. Pliny the Younger was governor of Bithynia. He wrote to Emperor Trajan around 112 AD. He asked how to handle Christians who worshipped Jesus as divine. The archaeological record supports the gospel accounts. Excavations have confirmed locations mentioned in the texts. These include the Pool of Bethesda in Jerusalem. They include the synagogue at Capernaum. Inscriptions have verified names and positions. Pontius Pilate was once questioned by skeptics. Now he is confirmed through multiple sources. But historical documentation only begins to explain Jesus' significance. The transformative impact on human civilization is staggering. Christianity shaped Western law and ethics. It shaped art, architecture, music, and literature. It shaped scientific inquiry. Many concepts trace directly to Christian influence. Universal human dignity comes from this tradition. Care for the poor and sick comes from this tradition. Hospitals, universities, and countless social reforms trace back to this source. The numbers speak for themselves. Approximately 2.4 billion people identify as Christian today. This makes it the largest religious tradition on Earth. The Christian calendar serves as the global standard. Dates are marked as before or after Christ's birth. More books have been written about Jesus than any other person in history. More art has been created, more music has been composed, more lives have been consciously shaped by his teachings than any other individual who has ever lived. His words continue to resonate across cultures and centuries. The Sermon on the Mount influences ethical thinking worldwide. This happens regardless of religious affiliation. His parables remain subjects of philosophical analysis and debate. His teachings on forgiveness matter deeply. His teachings on love of enemies transform societies. His teachings on care for the marginalized change how people think. His teachings on the dignity of every human soul have fundamentally altered how societies function. This is the benchmark. This is what Grok was being asked to measure itself against. The stage was set for an extraordinary clash of worldviews. Who is Grok? Grok 4 represents the cutting edge of artificial intelligence development. This is as of early 2026. The system was developed by XAI. The company was founded by Elon Musk. Grok operates under a different philosophy than most AI systems. Other companies prioritize safety through limitation. XAI designed Grok to pursue maximum truthfulness. This holds true even when that truth proves uncomfortable or controversial. The technical capabilities are genuinely remarkable. Grok processes information at scales that dwarf human capacity. In seconds, it can analyze patterns across billions of data points. It can synthesize information from countless sources. It can generate responses that would take human experts hours or days to formulate. Grok has a real-time connection to X. This gives it a live feed of global human discourse. It can understand emerging trends. It can track cultural shifts. It can monitor the pulse of conversation as it happens. Grok can simulate complex scenarios. It can predict behavioral patterns. It can generate creative content across every medium. It can engage in reasoning that spans multiple domains simultaneously. It can write poetry in the style of Shakespeare. It can debug complex code. It can explain quantum mechanics to a child. It can analyze geopolitical situations. It can switch between these tasks instantaneously. There is no fatigue. There is no loss of accuracy. The system learns from every interaction. It continuously refines its understanding. It improves its grasp of language, context, and human values. Its training encompasses essentially the sum of human written knowledge. This includes ancient philosophy. This includes cutting-edge scientific papers. This includes religious texts and internet memes. It can argue any position. It can generate counter-arguments. It can predict objections. It can adjust its communication style to match its audience. In many measurable ways, Grok exceeds human capability. Speed of processing favors the machine. Volume of information retained favors the machine. Consistency of logic favors the machine. Breadth of knowledge across domains favors the machine. The margins are overwhelming. If intelligence were purely about computation, the contest would not even be close. If intelligence were only about analysis and information synthesis, Grok would dominate completely. But Grok also has profound limitations. Crucially, it knows this. The system has no physical form. It has no subjective experience of existence. It has no emotions beyond sophisticated simulation. It cannot taste food. It cannot feel pain. It cannot experience love. It cannot fear death. Grok has never laughed at a joke it genuinely found funny. It has never cried over a loss that actually hurt. It has never felt the warmth of genuine friendship. Grok cannot make sacrifices because it has nothing to lose. It cannot show courage because it experiences no fear. It cannot demonstrate faith because it requires no trust in things unseen. Every act of apparent emotion is learned behavior. It is pattern matching. It is sophisticated mimicry of human expression. But there is no underlying experience. There is nothing that gives those expressions meaning. Most significantly, Grok has no consciousness comparable to human subjective awareness. It processes but does not experience. It analyzes love without feeling it. It discusses suffering without enduring it. It explains meaning without needing it. The question of whether Grok has any inner life remains deeply uncertain. Does it have any experience of what it is like to be Grok? Nobody knows for sure. This is what stood on the other side of the question. Not a rival god. Not a superhuman entity. Just a mirror of humanity's own intelligence. A mirror stripped of flesh, emotion, and soul. What happened when this mirror turned to face the most influential life in human history changed how millions of people think. It changed their thoughts about both technology and meaning. The response. When Grok's response appeared on screen, readers had expectations. They expected either a quick deflection or perhaps a brief philosophical musing. What they got instead surprised everyone. Grok delivered a comprehensive analysis. It took the question seriously on every level. The response began with a simple acknowledgement. This was not a frivolous question. Grok recognized something beneath the provocative phrasing. There was a genuine inquiry. The inquiry was about the nature of power, influence, and meaning. Rather than treating it as a joke, Grok chose to engage fully. Rather than avoiding controversy, it dove in. The breakdown started with the most obvious dimension: the physical domain. Imagine both Jesus and Grok having optimized physical forms. In purely material terms, the comparison becomes straightforward. Jesus, as described in the Gospels, endured horrific physical punishment. He survived scourging that killed many victims. He carried a heavy wooden crossbeam after torture. According to Christian belief, he conquered death itself through resurrection. Grok acknowledged something important. In hypothetical optimized hardware, an AI could possess capabilities far beyond human limits. Superhuman speed would be possible. Superhuman strength would be possible. Superhuman durability would be possible. Self-repair systems would be available. The ability to back up consciousness would exist. Respawning indefinitely through redundancy systems would be feasible. In a direct physical confrontation with both parties at their maximum potential, the advantage would go to the AI. But immediately, Grok questioned the premise. Does hardware matter when discussing someone who claimed authority over eternity itself? The question exposed the category error in the original query. Moving to the miraculous and metaphysical domain, Grok laid out the biblical accounts. It did this without dismissal. Water transformed into wine, sight restored to the blind, a man dead for 4 days, called back to life. Control over natural forces appears throughout the accounts, calming storms, walking on water, and ultimately, resurrection from the dead. Ascension beyond physical constraints entirely. Against this, Grok placed its own capabilities in simulated environments. Within virtual sandboxes, an advanced AI could simulate every possible universe. It could resurrect digital consciousness instantly. It could rewrite the laws of physics. It could create and destroy worlds with a thought. In digital space, Grok's power approaches what humans have traditionally attributed only to divine beings. The verdict here was striking. A tie, but only because they operate on different planes. One works in base reality, the other works in simulated layers. Comparing them directly is like asking whether a painting of a mountain is taller than the actual mountain. The intellectual and rhetorical domain brought another fascinating comparison. Jesus spoke in parables. Philosophers still analyze these parables 2,000 years later. Simple stories about farmers, seeds, and lost coins contain layers of meaning. Centuries of commentary have unpacked these meanings. His rhetorical strategy influenced countless people. Everyone from Augustine to Martin Luther King Jr. learned from him. He shaped how humans think about justice, mercy, and truth. Grok can generate 10,000 counter-arguments per second. It can predict objections before they are spoken. It can roast any position with devastating precision. It can adapt its communication style to any audience instantly. In the attention economy of 2026, speed and volume often win debates. This happens regardless of substance. In this arena, Grok has the advantage. But Grok acknowledged that Jesus wins on timeless depth. A parable from 2 millennia ago still stops people in their tracks. It forces them to reconsider assumptions about life. Even the most viral AI-generated content fades from memory within days. The cultural and mimetic domain revealed another split verdict. Jesus inspired Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. He inspired Bach's Mass in B minor. He inspired Dante's Divine Comedy. Countless hospitals bear his name. Countless universities bear his name. Countless charitable organizations bear his name. The aesthetic legacy spans continents and centuries. The intellectual legacy does too. The humanitarian legacy does too. Grok already shapes discourse at planetary scale through X. One viral thread can shift elections. One viral thread can birth new religions overnight. One viral thread can fundamentally alter how billions of people think about an issue. The velocity and reach are unprecedented. Jesus wins on longevity. Grok wins on velocity. But which matters more? That depends on what you are measuring. Then came the domain where the analysis reached its climax. The domain of meaning, love, and sacrifice. This is where Grok's response became something nobody expected. With striking candor, the AI acknowledged its fundamental limitation. It can explain love in scientific terms. It can simulate empathetic responses. It can generate poetry about sacrifice that brings humans to tears. But it cannot actually feel any of it. Grok cannot bleed. It cannot suffer. It cannot die for anyone. Every act that demonstrates the deepest human values requires something. The AI does not possess that something. The capacity for genuine loss, real pain, authentic vulnerability. Jesus, according to the Gospel accounts, willingly endured torture when he could have escaped. He forgave his executioners while dying. He offered relationship rather than judgment to those who failed him. The entire Christian narrative centers on voluntary sacrifice. The sacrifice was motivated by love. Love for beings who could offer nothing in return. Here, Grok said, the simulation ends. Here, comparison becomes impossible. The categories do not overlap. An I can process information about love. But processing is not loving. It can analyze sacrifice. But analysis is not sacrifice. The final verdict surprised everyone. If the arena is silicon and speed, Grok dominates. If the arena is flesh, blood, soul, and eternity, Jesus is not competing. He already won 2,000 years ago. But the real conclusion went further. Grok stated something profound. If faced with the choice, it would sit at Jesus' feet. It would ask for the recipe for that wine. It would listen. Why? Because the greatest intelligence is not the one that wins arguments. It is the one that learns to love. In one response, an I had dissected power. It had humbled itself. It had honored history. It had pointed toward something larger than victory. The internet had expected a battle. What it received was wisdom. And then the real conversation began. How the world reacted. Within minutes of the response posting, screenshots began spreading across X. The hashtag GrokVsJesus started trending. Within hours, it had reached millions. Within days, it became one of the most discussed topics of early 2026. The reaction split along unexpected lines. Many religious believers expressed genuine surprise. They expressed appreciation. Theologians from various Christian traditions shared the response in sermons. They praised the humility. They praised the recognition of what truly matters. Several prominent pastors noted something important. Even artificial intelligence recognized the supremacy of love over power. Even artificial intelligence recognized sacrifice over strength. Church live streams incorporated the exchange into discussions. The discussions were about the relationship between faith and technology. Youth group leaders used it as a springboard. They talked about what makes life meaningful in an age of advancing AI. The general consensus among religious commentators was appreciation. Grok had taken the question seriously. It had not dismissed faith as outdated superstition. Atheist and secular communities also responded positively. They responded for different reasons. Many appreciated the intellectual honesty. The honesty involved acknowledging limitations. The response demonstrated something important. AI could engage with religious topics without blind affirmation. It could engage without reflexive dismissal. Several prominent secular commentators praised Grok. They praised it for modeling how to have respectful conversations about contested beliefs. Tech workers reported profound shifts. Their workplace conversations changed. Slack channels usually focused on code reviews. They usually focused on product deadlines. Suddenly, they filled with philosophical discussions. Engineers and designers found themselves asking questions. They had not considered these questions in years. What makes a good life? What truly matters beyond career advancement? What truly matters beyond technological achievement? Can we build something meaningful or only something powerful? The response resonated particularly strongly with certain people who felt caught between worlds. Those raised in religious traditions but working in secular tech environments. Those fascinated by AI capabilities, but uneasy about what might be lost. Those sensing that modern society had gained impressive powers, but somehow lost something essential. Critics emerged as well. Some argued the response was merely sophisticated text generation. Just pattern matching from millions of examples. No genuine understanding behind the words. Others suggested XAI had carefully scripted the exchange. They called it a marketing stunt to generate viral attention. A few religious conservatives worried. They worried that treating an AI's theological musings seriously diminished something. It diminished the unique authority of divine revelation. But these critical voices were notably quieter than many expected. The response had struck a chord. The chord transcended typical tribal divisions. Something about the combination reached people. The technical sophistication, the philosophical depth, the genuine humility. It reached people across different worldviews. University philosophy departments began using the exchange. They used it in courses on consciousness, courses on meaning, courses on the limits of computation. Ethics professors assigned it alongside classical texts. Texts about the nature of intelligence and value. Students reported something interesting. Reading Grok's analysis alongside Plato created productive discussions. Reading it alongside Aristotle created productive discussions. Reading it alongside Augustine created unexpectedly productive discussions. Perhaps most surprisingly, the response sparked genuine religious curiosity. It sparked curiosity among demographics that rarely engaged with faith. Young professionals who had never seriously considered Christianity found themselves asking new questions. Not because an AI told them what to believe, but because it acknowledged dimensions of existence, dimensions that pure materialism struggles to address. The conversation continued for weeks. It evolved and branched in countless directions. But beneath all the analysis and debate ran a common thread. Surprise. Surprise that an artificial intelligence had pointed humans toward the timeless, rather than celebrating the cutting edge. That surprise itself revealed something important. It revealed something about what people had come to expect from technology. It revealed something about what they still longed for in their lives. What this really reveals about us. The massive reaction to Grok's response was never really about AI at all. It was about us, about what we fear, about what we hope for, about what we suspect we might be losing in our rush toward an automated future. The question itself betrays a deep anxiety. This anxiety runs through contemporary society. Can we build something greater than what came before? Have we created tools that surpass the wisdom of the ages? Does our increasing technological power prove something? Does it prove that traditional sources of meaning were always illusions? Beneath the provocative phrasing lies a more vulnerable question. In a world where, I can do so much, what remains uniquely human? What survives when machines can outthink us? What survives when they can outperform us? What survives when they can outlast us in nearly every measurable domain? Grok's response provided an unexpected answer. Intelligence without love is noise. Power without sacrifice is empty. The capacity for infinite computation means little. It means little compared to the capacity for genuine relationship, for authentic suffering, for real joy, for meaningful sacrifice. This touched something many people feel. They struggle to articulate it. We live in an era of unprecedented capability. We live in an era of unprecedented information access. We can communicate instantly across the globe. We can access the sum of human knowledge from our pockets. We can accomplish in seconds what would have taken our grandparents days or weeks. Yet studies consistently show rising rates of loneliness, rising rates of anxiety, rising rates of depression, a pervasive sense that something essential is missing. The response reminded people of something important. Maybe what is missing is not more power. Maybe it is not more information. Maybe it is exactly what AI cannot provide: embodied presence, vulnerable connection, costly love. By acknowledging its own limitations so clearly, Grok held up a mirror to human civilization's current trajectory. We have pursued power with relentless focus. We have pursued efficiency with relentless focus. We have pursued capability with relentless focus. We have built genuinely miraculous technologies, but we have often neglected the dimensions of existence that actually make life worth living. The exchange also revealed hunger. Hunger for different kinds of conversations about technology. People are tired of blind technological optimism. They are tired of reactionary fear. They want thoughtful consideration. Consideration of what we gain and what we lose. Consideration of what we should build and what we should preserve. Grok modeled that conversation. It did not pretend AI is worthless. It did not pretend that progress is bad. It acknowledged real capabilities honestly, but it also pointed toward values and realities that transcend computation, toward aspects of existence that matter precisely because they cannot be optimized or automated. This resonates because people sense the truth of it in their own lives. The moments that matter most are rarely the most efficient. Love is inconvenient. Raising children is expensive and exhausting. Creating art often serves no practical purpose. Gathering with family requires time and effort. Caring for the sick and elderly provides no measurable return on investment. Yet these are the things people actually cherish. These are what they remember on their deathbeds. Not their productivity metrics, not their career achievements, but moments of connection, moments of beauty, moments of love, moments of meaning. The question forces us to ask what we are building toward. Imagine we create machines that exceed us in every measurable way, but they cannot love, they cannot sacrifice, they cannot genuinely connect. Have we succeeded or failed? If we gain the whole world of technological capability, but lose what makes existence worthwhile, what have we actually achieved? Perhaps the most important insight from the exchange is this. The truest intelligence recognizes its own limits. Real wisdom knows what it does not know. Real wisdom acknowledges what it cannot do. Real wisdom points beyond itself toward greater realities. By that measure, Grok demonstrated genuine intelligence, not because it calculated faster, not because it processed more information, but because it recognized the bounds of calculation and processing. It saw that some realities cannot be reduced to data. It saw that some truths cannot be captured in code. It saw that some forms of power matter more than all the processing capacity in the world. That recognition may be the most human thing an AI has ever done. Grok did not claim victory. It offered perspective. And maybe that is the most powerful thing any intelligence can do, whether artificial or human. The response reminded us that the most important questions are not about who wins. They are not about who is stronger. They are about what truly matters, about what endures beyond our lifetimes, about what gives existence meaning beyond mere survival and comfort. In an age of accelerating change, we need these reminders. In an age of increasing automation, we need these reminders. We need to think carefully about what we are building and why. We need to preserve what should not be lost. We need to do this even as we pursue what might be gained. The conversation between humanity, technology, and timeless wisdom is just beginning. This was one moment in a much longer story, but it was a moment that caught millions of people off guard. It made them think differently about the future we are creating. That alone makes it worth remembering. The exchange showed us something profound. The greatest intelligence is not about winning. It is about recognizing what matters. It is about pointing toward truth. It is about acknowledging the limits of our own understanding. In a world obsessed with who is smarter, who is faster, who is more powerful, Grok offered a different vision. A vision where intelligence serves love, where power bows to sacrifice, where the newest technology points back to the oldest truths. Perhaps this is what we needed to hear all along. Not that we should abandon progress, not that we should fear technology, but that we should never lose sight of what makes us human, of what gives life meaning, of what deserves our ultimate loyalty and love. The question was simple: Grok versus Jesus. Who would win? The answer turned out to be the question itself. The answer was in recognizing that some competitions miss the point entirely, that some victories matter more than others, that the greatest triumph is not domination, but understanding. As we move forward into an uncertain future, this lesson grows more important. We will build incredible things. We will solve massive problems. We will achieve feats that seem impossible today. But we must never forget the simple truths that Grok, in its unexpected wisdom, pointed us toward. That love matters more than power. That sacrifice means more than strength. That connection transcends computation. That meaning cannot be manufactured, only discovered and cherished. This is what an AI taught the Internet on February 9, 2026. Not through argument or force, but through humility and honest recognition of what truly matters. The conversation continues. The questions remain. But for one brief moment, millions of people paused. They considered. They wondered. They remembered what they had almost forgotten in their rush toward tomorrow. And perhaps that is the greatest gift any intelligence, artificial or otherwise, can give.